TV umpire to director, we have a player review. Can we rock and roll, please?
Hello. Welcome to Bits and Pieces, the friendliest cricket podcast. We are here to talk about everything that happened this week in the world of cricket. This is Max, and joining me are two panelists. Our first is someone who has single-handedly ramroded careers of people. Ollie Robinson, you might have heard of him. Nobody knows of him anymore. Prasidh Krishna, KL Rahul are hanging by the barest of threads. Prithvi Shaw is nowhere to be seen now. All because a certain someone said that they had very bright futures and he rated them very high. The jinxer of the greatest order, Varun Murli, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Max. Just a few points that I would like to make. I think there are three names you mentioned. Ollie Robinson is not in my account. That is in Mr. Abhishek Chopra's account, if you remember. Prasidh Krishna's renaissance is going to happen on this particular tour. It does look that way. And Prithvi Shaw, I don't know. Like, I've never made any comment about Prithvi Shaw, but yeah, so
I
be
was
it.
I was secretly hoping that he will not speak about Prasidh because that guy is actually doing well.
I know.
Actually, I thought he'll just move aside and not bring up Prasidh and speak about the others. But unfortunately, he took the bait.
Prasidh Krishna just got Virat Kohli to nick in a simulation game. Now probably he won't make the playing 11. Now that Varun Murli has said nice things about him. Joining us. I forgot to mention this is a multi-continent podcast right now. So representing the Americas, this is myself. Representing the Indian subcontinent, we have Varun, and the thunder from down under, we have our diligent quizmaster. Sometimes we forget we are a cricket group. We talk about banal things like what Vijay Lokapalli is smoking and what Prem Panikar should be doing and all of that. But then there will be a voice of reason and someone who will come and put, hey, in episode this of Suits, do you remember what happened? And they're like, wait, what is Suits? But he's there. He's the one. And here to talk about and welcome us to the greatest summer in decades, maybe. We have Adi all the way from Melbourne. Say hi, Adi.
Hello all. Thank you.
This is not the mock auction. Why are you lifting your paddle?
In case you are bringing it up later, at least I have my paddle ready.
You never know. I may send you an Excel sheet. I have some Excel sheets and say, okay, let's start the auction right now. Opening marquee set.
So it's confirmed that they're doing it on day 3 and 4 of the Perth test. That's confirmed.
24th November.
Day 2 and 3.
It's day 2 and 3.
Right. Will Ricky Ponting, Justin Langer and Dan Vettori have to leave the Perth test and go for auctions for their respective teams, being Punjab, Lucknow and Hyderabad?
Wait, what are Ponting and Langer doing in Australia, first of all?
They're part of Channel 7, the free-to-air.
Channel 7.
And Dan Vettori is assistant coach.
No, Vettori has already said that since I am only assistant coach, I will be hopping onto a plane and doing more important things.
What does a spin coach have to do in Perth anyways? It's superfluous to requirements, a spin coach in at the Perth test match. Yeah.
Correct. So Vettori has clearly made his intentions clear. Where his loyalties lie. Ponting is the coach. I'm definitely expecting him to be there. This is going to be interesting. But we're not going to talk about. We want to talk about the greatest summer that is going to come. Please tell us about the summer that is going to unravel itself in 7 days from now.
I'll start with the build up to summer. So obviously they had Pakistan, or they still have Pakistan here. It started with the ODI series, which they ended up kind of losing. How it unraveled was that the scheduling was meant to be, so the understanding was that the top players would play the first 2 games in Melbourne and Adelaide on the basis that they'll win the series and they can rest the squad for the Perth game and effectively get the bowlers ready for the test match starting on the 22nd, right? But unfortunately, things didn't go as to plan. Australia won the opening game by the thinnest of margins thanks to Captain Pat. And then they lost pretty comprehensively in both Adelaide and Perth. And there's been a lot of discussion about the scheduling, saying that, obviously it's important, the World Test Championship, Border-Gavaskar, all of that. Should we have got the scheduling a bit better just to give the players some kind of rest? Michael Clark has been vocal on radio saying that there is a good 12 days gap between the last one day and the first test. Surely these guys can play it. Amidst all that, Pakistan has not deserved the recognition and kudos that they deserve, similar to what happened when India lost against New Zealand, where everybody forgot the fact that New Zealand played really good cricket and won, whereas the same thing has happened with the ODI series.
No, but Adi, tell me one thing. Like, there is a round of Sheffield
Yeah,
Shield also going,
correct.
right? Are the like fringe test players at least participating in that, or is it like full rest for all
No.
the
So
test players right
again
now?
the issue is, and this is the problem with the Australian calendar, right? Because they have to squeeze in so much in this period. So what confuses people who also follow it here is that the Sheffield is happening, and then what will happen is, say you'll have one weekend of games with all the six states, then you'll have a week's gap where they'll play a one-day tournament, which is again the Sheffield equivalent of a one-day tournament in between the Sheffield Shield. So they keep switching between formats between the whole season itself. So you do have a few of the fringe players playing. For example, Scotty Boland played the India A game. Then he also played for Victoria. But the problem is, one week you're playing a Sheffield 4-day game, and the next week you're playing a 50-over one-day game, right? So it's a bit all over the shop just because of how they manage the calendar year. But yeah, the fringe players have been getting ready to kind of support the bowlers. Most of the bowlers have got some overs under their legs.
So India, for example, right now is having three teams that are currently playing. There is the A team that is playing a test series. There is the main test team that is doing net practice under secrecy, under a dark veil of, literally a dark veil. And there is a T20 team that is going and smashing records in South Africa. So Australia also, has that level of pedigree, right? So which is why I think they've said, okay, you know what, we can take that chance and put out the second string team and all that. When the schedule is put out, right, and at that time it's not made clear that who's going to play, who's not going to play, or so on, right? So if you are a ticket buying person and you show up to a game and now this is the second string Australian team that is playing, like as a spectator in the ground, you're like, WTF, right? um and it is very funny because Pat Cummins went to watch
Yes.
Coldplay, and imagine, you buy tickets to Coldplay and Chris Martin doesn't show up.
Or basically, you have a poor cover band. We sound like Coldplay, but we are not Coldplay.
When you go to the Australia Pakistan game, you've bought tickets and all that, saying, okay, this is
And,
a nice,
and the series decider.
yeah, it's the third game, we're going to go watch this, and then you have a second string team that shows up, and if they won, at least then it would have been different. Now you have a second string team that showed up and lost, and now has given Dizzy Gillespie the great title of beating England and Australia in the same
But
month.
indirectly, what it has happened is it's kind of woken up the public here from what I'm reading. They're like, oh shit, we lost. Okay, now maybe let's really focus on the cricket and look at what is going to happen in Border-Gavaskar, right? Because till the actual test starts, people are like, yeah, still getting out of, football season, all the trades that happen, etc. And they're still yet to get their minds fully into cricket. Now, having lost against the Pakistan team, people are like, oh, okay, this doesn't happen that often. Yeah, maybe let's really try and focus on the cricket now.
You feel bad for
Actually,
Pakistan, right? Like they showed up, their
Bowled
fast
really
bowler
well.
showed up, Harish Rauf, showed up and took all those wickets. Shaheen also was.
And so was even Naseem was good, and it was a pretty interesting tactic by Rizwan, because it could have gone the other way, because one of the things was he backed four fast bowlers to bowl, which obviously affects the over rate rather, but it didn't really matter because they bundled them out. They never used their full quota, so it kind of worked out for them. But kudos to Rizwan for basically saying, yeah, I don't think we have a good enough spinning all-rounder, so let's just back four fast bowlers to get the job done. And they actually got it done in almost 3 games, actually.
But Adi, what is happening with Australian cricket? Like I don't think the ODI 11 has changed from
Yeah.
2017 onwards. Maxwell, Stoinis, like even if they have like 3, 4 bad years, they're still in the 11. I mean, surely there is something that is wrong with the second rung of talent there, right? I mean, it's always the same phases.
The view that Andrew McDonald has taken with Pat Cummins is they kind of want to back players for very, very long. So that's like a view they've kind of taken. Results can do whatever they want. You look at the fast bowling setup, right? like Scott Boland, he's probably bowled better than Hazelwood in a few tests that he's played every summer, but Hazelwood still gets the nod before him, right? So it's just one of those things where there are a lot of players on the fringe whom they should back a bit more, but they'd rather go with the same core for longer and just hope that it works out. And it did, right? Now, also, hindsight is very funny because they won the 2023 World Cup with pretty much the same team of ragtag stars. If they had lost, it would have been a different story, but they won. I suspect the Champions Trophy might be a point in time where they might actually really consider what they need to do before South Africa. I think they need to kind of lose a reasonably high profile ODI tournament, and then I think the knives will be out. Also, depending on what happens in BGT and the Sri Lanka series, plus Champions Trophy, because it's all happening over the next 3 months, then I think there might be some significant decisions to be made. But I agree that no one in the Australia B team who played against Pakistan gave me much confidence that they're ready for international cricket. Johnson, maybe, again, left armer bowling with decent pace. Lance Morris is a bit more like Sean Tate, good wild pace, but a bit erratic. But apart from those two, I think the batting definitely looks very thin.
Speaking of B teams, the Indian B team has been in South Africa and creating records. A certain wicketkeeper opener from the state of Kerala has been amongst the runs like crazy. He scored a century against Bangladesh, and then now the opening game he scored a century. He had a couple of ducks, but again yesterday showed up and scored a sparkling 100, only to be almost overshadowed by Tilak Verma, who kind of caught up out of nowhere and came back to score a century. VaMu, did you watch the game?
Yeah, I did. I did watch the game yesterday. Like, I haven't found the series very enjoyable. It's been like a lot of just like stand and hit basically. I mean, do we really think it's the B team? It's pretty much the full strength India team in T20s going forward, right? And maybe you could make a case that like Bumrah walks in, but even Yashasvi Jaiswal, I'm not sure him or Abhishek Sharma, like who's going to get picked going forward. But this is the full strength India T20 side going forward for me. The start is quite incredible for the format. T20 is like winning 25 out of 27 T20s or something like that during the year. I mean, I'm not sure any other team has been able to put together that kind of a run in international cricket. I did get pilloried like 3, 4 weeks back when I said like Gautam Gambhir has done a very good job with the T20 setup. But yeah, I mean it's a format where I mean we are moving away from what we have been doing historically, like having more players who can bat and bowl, like good mix of right-handers and left-handers, good batting depth now, more focus on mystery spinners or rather unorthodox spinners in the playing 11. That's how you play the T20 format.
And do you reckon that now that you don't have to accommodate a Kohli and a Rohit, etc., they can actually continue this bilateral template even for the next World Cup in India and Sri Lanka in 2026?
I mean, this is the full strength side, right? I don't see anything changing in yesterday's game. If I'm not mistaken, you had Ramandeep coming in at 7, Akshar coming in at 8. So that's pretty good batting depth and like good hitting depth also, basically. So yeah, I think this is going to be like an exciting period. The only worry here is whether the likes of Sky, Hardik, they have like hit their peak basically. I mean, that's my only worry heading into the next T20 World Cup. I mean, Sky has been in an unreal run. I think that had to come off sometime because, especially in Sri Lankan conditions, you will need like good batsmen also. They are not going to be very high scoring games given the conditions that are dished out there. So that will be interesting to see, especially in the IPL, like how Mumbai Indians go, in my view. But
How do you rate the current squad's ability to play spin? Given that obviously South Africa, you would not face much quality spin apart from Maharaj and a bit of Makram. Given that we got walloped in July against the Sri Lankan team there, I know it's still a while away, the next World Cup, but things can change. But do you reckon the current squad is reasonably good in terms of spin playing ability?
I think Abhishek and Tilak are very good against spin. The rest is a bit wobbly. But having said that, like when you have a bowling attack that reads Varun Chakravarti, Ravi Bishnoi, and Akshar Patel, I think that like should help balance any weakness the batting at lineup has against spin, in my view. So I think we'll be well placed for the Sri Lanka World Cup. Yeah.
We should talk about the standout. The standouts of this tour have been Sanju and Varun, because Varun, has come back to the team after the World Cup in Dubai, right? That's when the last time he played, and straight away he's among the wickets and he's troubling everyone. Klaasen, Markram, all of these guys are actually pretty, good players of spin as well, and he's troubled everyone. So Varun Chakravarti has been, completely different, playing on a completely different pitch almost. Even yesterday, like Klaasen was taking him on, but then that very same over, I think got hit thrice, but then the last ball he cleaned him out. And it's nice to see Sanju grab this role at the top of the order, because once Jaiswal comes in, I don't know what if he can still open or not, but he's scoring as when he can, because I wanted Sanju to get the century. I was like, I hope, because he's reached 90, I hope he doesn't try to hit a six and get to it and all that. He was taking singles. And Prashant's like, no, he should blaze. It's like, no, because the Indian cricket fan doesn't remember the 90s or the 95s and all that. It's just when someone does a query on Stats Guru, and that's what people remember. So, it was good. He took that last, 8 runs, probably a lot slower compared to the frenetic pace at which they were scoring before. But I'm glad he got that century, because now he's got the last 5-6 games, he's got 300. So he's keeping very well as well. He was to both Bishnoi and Varun, he kept really well. Akshar was severely underbowled. Don't know why, but probably they felt they didn't need him or something.
He was busy bowling out Kohli from South Africa.
And do you reckon the team pretty much coached itself, given that you had the doyen of T20 batting, VVS Lakshman, as the head coach, and the batting coach being one Rishikesh Kanitkar, whom I was shocked to see in the dugout.
VVS has a perfect record, almost perfect record as a coach, by the way.
And what has his opposition been? Ireland.
Don't ask Varun Morley questions. Don't do that. At the end of the day, when you look at Stats Guru, Lakshman has a unbeatable record, right? Whether he beat Zimbabwe and Ireland and all that, at the end of the day, he won. West Indies. Even Suryakumar Yadav, I think, has won every series now as a captain.
Hey, didn't we play a T20 like series against Australia at home earlier this year?
So we won that 4-1. So Surya
talking about memorable hundreds, I remember I think Ruturaj Gaikwad also scored 100 in that series, and like promptly to be asked for the next series. So no, I don't think like anybody remembers all these hundreds, like honestly. But I mean Sanju is a different case, right? I do believe like there are a lot of people who want him to do well in Indian colors. So I'm sure he is going to get a good run. I'd said that when Gambhir was appointed as well, that you're going to see Sanju Samson, because Gautam Gambhir rates Sanju Samson very, very highly.
And his father also rates him very highly, because he did not throw Gautam Gambhir under the bus. Sanju's father. He threw Dhoni, Kohli and Rohit Sharma under the bus. Left out Sky and Gautam Gambhir. So hopefully they are in his good books.
Sanju's father also has a Yogaraj Singh problem, is it? But I'm glad he said Gauti rates him very high. I'm glad Varun didn't say I rate him very high, because that would be the immediate decline of Sanju, and we can't bear it. And also, don't say many people want him to do well. Okay, Tony Sebastian has created 500 Gmail accounts, and with each Gmail account, he's created one Twitter account, and they, he'll every day post from those 500 accounts, and they wanted to do well.
In Silicon Valley, the TV show where that guy basically gets a lot of hits by farming it off to some thing in Bangladesh, basically to show that the website got 1 million hits.
Yeah, that is Tony Sebastian for you. In fact, South Africa, right? They were without Andrik Norke, Tabre Shamsi, who've not taken a central contract. Rabada was playing. Ingidi, I think, is injured, because Ingidi even played games against Ireland and Afghanistan when they were on the UAE tour. I think
so Rabada is being rested for Sri Lanka and Pakistan, who are coming over.
I don't know, or SA20.
Pakistan is coming over for 2 tests, Boxing Day and New Year, and then I think Sri Lanka after that.
Okay, because Jan 11th is
Oh.
SA20, so Sri Lanka has to be after that.
Yeah, because they do this late Feb series, Feb March has to be after SA20. Nothing comes in the way of SA20.
No. Sri Lanka are in South Africa
Already?
right now.
Okay, maybe they're starting earlier.
Yeah. Neil McKenzie has been
Batting.
appointed Sri Lanka's batting coach, and like some 10 players are already in South Africa as we speak. So I think the Sri Lanka South Africa series is about to start in a couple of weeks.
Oh, similar to BGT then. It starts like, and I think they'll be doing, because South Africa only does 2 test series anyways, right? So they'll have 2 and then 2
Yep.
against Pakistan. Okay.
What you're talking, man? Sri Lanka is playing ODIs against New Zealand right now. They have a
South
game.
Africa, Sri Lanka first test, Durban, 27th November.
Sri Lanka also shooting it. Sri Lanka को भी 18 beat him है अभी. ये क्या है मामा?
By the way,
No, that is the case, right? I mean, like a lot of the Sri Lankan white ball players don't play Test cricket, right? Like you have, I mean, if you look at the bowling attack, it is Vanindu, Tikshana, Patirana, all those guys. Like they don't get anywhere near the Test team. So yeah, it's
by the way, guys,
pretty different sides
for all
actually.
Test
Yeah.
cricket fans, there's a festival of cricket coming, because for 22nd November, Perth first Test BGT, 23rd West Indies, Bangladesh Toro West Indies, 27th South Africa, Sri Lanka and Durban, then 28th New Zealand versus England at Christchurch. So 8 teams playing Test cricket over a week. So yeah, get your body clocks in order, depending on your time zones.
It's only when cricket happens in the Indian subcontinent I'm screwed. Test matches in the Indian subcontinent kill me because they all start at like 11 p.m. my time.
And what kills you more is missing out on Ashwin's match-winning performances in real time.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, he won't play at Perth, but hopefully he'll play at Adelaide. Let's see. Why don't you tell us about this darkly veiled practice sessions that are happening? I mean, the only reason this is to spoil the livelihood of one friend of the pod, Bharat Sundaresan, because poor chap, goes and takes videos of people playing and beaten and all that. And now with this iron corridor that they've put across themselves, you're denying all that.
Firstly, why did they cancel the warm-up game they were meant to have with the India A team? Because WACA's, firstly, not the main ground where they're playing the test. That's at Optus Stadium, right? So WACA's pretty much, they told the curator, whatever, give us this pitch, and they've given them the pitch. I suspect they were worried they might lose to the India A team also, given their recent love 3 record against New Zealand at home. So let's just do away with the warm-up game and just have a simulation.
No, the answer is quite clear, right? Like how else will Kohli, Jaiswal, Gill, etc. get to bat twice a day for 3 days running, right? I mean, like
because India, whenever they play warm-up games, they always make it 15 or 16 member squad. Everybody gets a hit out. So it was always going to be the case. It would not have been a technical list A game.
I think the idea was so that everybody doesn't get a hit out, right? I mean, it's just focused on the main 11. So they have a hit out like all 3 days running basically. So I'm okay with it. I don't think like a warm-up game so early in the tour where like you want to like get into the rhythm. I think this works better, like all the batsmen getting hits basically.
No, what is the simulation, by the way? Because I thought what happened at South Africa last night in Johannesburg was a simulation. That actually seemed like a simulation to me. What is this simulation of cricket where get out fending to Nitish Kumar Reddy
Mukesh Kumar bowled on a virtual fifth stump and you nicked off.
Prasidh Krishna is taking wickets and then you're saying, oh, sir, please, again, I want second batting.
My understanding is that from what I've read is that the main stadium, the Optus Stadium where they're having it, they've effectively taken the pitch from the erstwhile WACA Stadium, right? So effectively, this is meant to more or less give you a feel of what you might expect in the actual test match, right? General, even Usman Khawaja mentioned it on the Great Cricketer Pod, over the last 4-5 years, they've really juiced up the wickets across all the venues in Australia. Like even in Sheffield, like scoring 100 is not that easy at all. Right? Like you had Sam Constance who scored 200s at the start of the Shield, but since then there are very few batters who have actually managed to score 100s regularly. So keeping that in mind, I think the simulation was basically to give them a view of what to expect on the day. Yeah, I'm still not convinced that it's the real deal.
We are spending so much time about like Indian preparation, simulation, and all that. Adi, like, what are the Australian cricketers been doing like over the last week, except for doing
That's it.
podcasts?
They are watching Coldplay. They are going to Coldplay, Macha.
Almost every cricketer has been like doing podcasts like about how the pitches in Australia are, like how facing Jasprit Bumrah is
Usman
like.
Khawaja was doing commentary for Fox for the first T20 game with David Warner. And they were discussing how
Yeah,
Glenn Maxwell, when he does his reverse,
Maxwell.
there is a tell that if he grounds the bat, that means the reverse sweep is coming. And they were incredulous that Pakistan surely would have figured it out when the two of them can figure it out. But yeah, I think their preparation, the view has been from Andrew McDonald that you do whatever you need to do as your process before the test match. We will not enforce it. They've said that's what worked for them in the Ashes. That's what works for them in general. That there's no prescribed thing that you have to do X, Y, Z. The only thing they say is for the bowlers, they're very, very conscious of workload management. And one of the things they actually mentioned, which is very surprising in this whole scheduling discussion, Nick Hockley, who's the CEO of Cricket Australia, said they've apparently had enough data points to show that when you have 2 days turnaround between one-day games, that causes the most number of injuries for fast bowlers, which is why they said we decided to rest Cummins, Stark, etc. between the Adelaide and the Perth one-day international. But my view, VaMu, I think you're right. I don't think the Aussie fast bowlers have enough mileage on their legs in terms of having played a lot of Sheffield versus the Indian bowlers. Indian bowlers at least came off a test series in real-time conditions, not even simulation, against very good quality opposition. Whereas the Australian bowlers, I think Cummins last played a game maybe more than 3-4 weeks ago, right? So they're just banking on the fact that it's their home conditions. They have a solid track record in all the first three test venues: Perth, Adelaide, and Gabba. Gabba, not so much when you consider the last two tests. So they're just banking on pure muscle memory and the fact that Indians are not very good at playing at those venues. That's all. But I don't think their preparation is anything compared to what India is doing. India is at least appearing to do something.
Okay, forget the bowling, like even the batting, right? Usman Khawaja tailed off very badly, like during the Ashes.
Keep in mind, VaMu, their last test was against New Zealand in March. So they have not played test cricket for close
Yeah.
to 7 months now.
Yeah, and Labuschagne, I don't know when he's got like serious runs last.
But
Smith, I think will do well. He's a good player. My thing is like, except for like Alex Carey, I don't think like the rest of the Australian batting lineup is in any kind of form.
and you can't measure their form because they haven't played anything to show they are in form, right?
No, but even in the Sheffield games, like I don't think the batting lineup, like Travis Head has been missing, but the others haven't been exactly
I
among
think
the
amongst
runs,
the
right?
bowlers, actually, I feel Lyon is probably the most match ready because he pretty much played most of the
Yeah.
games. Plus, he had a big stint in county in April, May. And he apparently picked, what's that bowler's name from England who played in the Test series in India? Hartley. He picked Hartley's brains a lot, specifically to see what did he think about Jaiswal. Because he said it on a podcast recently that I kind of picked his brain specifically on Jaiswal and a few other batters. So yeah, Nathan Lyon at least seems to be walking the talk in terms of actually done some preparation. The rest are just going to just walk in there and do their stuff.
Is there any part about the Australian preparation that has not been voiced on a podcast?
No, that doesn't work that way. You have to, everything has to be aired before the actual series to build up hype. Yeah, nothing is left off the table. Everything is on the table.
Wait, pound. I mean, Australia only gets cricket like in the month of December and the month of January. 2 months.
And only when two teams visit. In India visits and England visits. The other two summers in a 4-year cycle is a write-off.
Right, so they only get that much oxygen. Rest of the time they're playing some BBL and all that. Their public also is not watching. So they have to put out content as much as possible. So content is king.
India needs to answer why they decided to do this veil of secrecy, because that is like playing into someone's hands. I honestly don't know what the thinking was around it.
So my reasoning around that is to just like keep the first 11 a bit of a surprise. I think that's the only.
What surprise is there, Kanama? What surprise is there in this? Rohit had a baby. He's not coming for sure, right?
He's too young. He's only 3 days old. He's too young. He can't come. Oh, sorry, you mean Rohit. Sorry.
So Rohit's not coming. So that means only one spot is up there. So now whether KL or Ishwaran play, Ishwaran had a torrid India A set of tests. and then both games, and then same. KL came for one game. He didn't look the part as well. He played this simulation game. He got injured in a simulation also. Maybe the injury was simulated. I don't know. Unless this is some galaxy brain Gambhir behind this saying that tell people you're injured when you're not injured or suddenly show up.
This
I
is
don't
this
know.
is like
But
the opening lines of
yeah,
Bohemian Rhapsody. Is this reality or is this fantasy? Right. But I agree with Max. I don't think the 11 is such a big mystery. Vamu. Okay. I mean, obviously, also you're giving a hit out to a lot of the batsmen. Like Jurel got a hit out. Everybody's getting a hit out. So yeah, you can more or less fix 7 to 8 spots. I don't think anyone is really, waking up in the night thinking, oh shit, is it going to be Jurel or is it going to be Nitish Kumar or is it going to be Washington Sundar? So I doubt that really makes much sense about why they want to do this.
no, there are only two people on the Australian continent who know what the Indian playing 11 is. One of them is a certain Gautam Gambhir. The second is the Dronacharya of our podcast, Mohan Krishnamurthy. Right? Every waking hour they spend, every day they,
Come on.
even in the bathroom on toilet paper also they keep writing what the playing
This
11
is
should
like,
be.
that she loves me not. Rohit,
Correct.
Ishwaran. Rohit, Ishwaran.
Gil, KL. So only two people know. We should not talk about playing 11 now. Mohan Krishnamurthy and Gambhir will figure that. That is their headache. We don't.
But on that note, thoughts on the 11, though, in all seriousness, which are the question marks?
No, there is the 11 that I want, but I know the 11 that will show up on the
Okay, so
park.
you put in your 11, you interchange the two players whom you reckon will be there versus whom you want to be there. I know one of them is Ashwin.
No, actually, I want Washi to play. I had
Okay.
Ashwin, but I think they will do some stupid thing like making Nitish Reddy or someone like that.
So, Judge.
So when you say Washi to play ahead of Ashwin, you are dropping Jaddu?
There is only one all-rounder spot, so I want Washi to play that all-rounder spot versus Jaddu or Ashwin. Only because he's a better bat than both of them. Standing there and throwing darts is probably the best thing you can do at Perth. And I think KLR will open. And the only thing is this whole Jurel versus Sarfu. Sarfu's stock suddenly, it's a very weird game, right? I mean, guy scores a 150 and then has two very forgettable games. Now suddenly his stock has fallen, and Jurel, because of that single-handed action game against India A, now suddenly is amongst the reckoning for that spot. So it's a very funny
Why
game.
don't we apply this horses for courses thing even for batters? It's always against like Sarfu for all his exploits in domestic. Is he suited for South Africa and Australia? In all seriousness, like for bowlers we say like we can drop Ashwin, without even thinking twice because we're saying it's Perth. What's he going to do there? Why can't you do the same thing for batters?
Batters are holy cows. You don't get to question them. It's like the mudblood and the wizards kind of a thing. Captains are picked out of batters, by mistake once in a century. One Southee, Wasim Akram, Bumrah, and all, someone will become captain. Otherwise, batters only.
I have always been a bit of a Sarfaraz skeptic, but now I am firmly in the camp that he does deserve the run out in Perth. Like you have picked him, and he has like had a good test match 100 against New Zealand. I think he deserves the right to fail and like work his way out of it, or like fingers crossed, do really well. I think this test series is also going to give us an insight into the coaching philosophy as well. I think Ravi Shastri was very much a horses for courses kind of guy. Dravid was the other extreme where if Dravid was the coach right now, like there is no possibility that KL Rahul would not have batted at number 6 basically. So Dravid was very much a process kind of guy, and like even if somebody was injured and coming back, the spot was always belonged to the incumbents. Gambhir, like it's a bit weird. Like in T20s, he seems to be backing people and following the process, but in Test cricket, like it seems a bit all over the place right now. Yesterday, it was a bit revealing that Jurel was the one who got a hit out, and like Sarfraz didn't. Sarfraz seems to be getting a hit out. My suspicion is that there may be like a surprise in the form of Harshit. I have a feeling that like between Nitish Reddy and Harshit can bat a bit as well as the fourth seamer. There may be a surprise.
Will it be as bad a surprise as Karan Sharma 2014-15?
But before that, dear viewers, dear listeners, it's the 15th of November where I am. It's the 16th of November where two other panelists are there. And Varun Murli has said that he rates Sarfaraz Khan very highly. He expects Steve Smith to have a very good tournament as well as Alex Carey. He has also said that he has no clue why Usman Khwaja, Marnus Labuschagne, and these guys are going to do. So we all know. We will look forward to this. We will come back to this episode. So when we are doing the BGT live episode from Adi's living room, we will all remember and talk about these bold predictions that were made of who will fizzle out and who will sizzle.
Because the internet never forgets.
So Varun, you're on the spot.
As I've been like harping on this WhatsApp group, I think this is an Australian side, like a number of players are getting over the hill. I'm very worried about Alex Carey. I think it was Aaron Finch who went or like put it out on Twitter that this series will be determined by the Carey versus Pant battle, and he got a lot of flack for it. I think he may be onto something. Alex Carey has been in brilliant form. Pant, I feel, may not have a great series in Australia. I think he's due a bad series. Again, it's a bit counterintuitive, but I think there is going to be a lot of Aussie focus around bowling to Rishabh Pant this time around.
No, I'm making predictions on all 22 players. At least one person's prediction will work out. Then he'll say, hey, I am not a jinxer. Yeah, see, I made a prediction about Alex Carey. Alex Carey had a good tournament. That means you cannot fault me.
If you're banking on Alex Carey and Pant to be the defining batters, then effectively we are saying numbers 1 to 5, nothing to talk about.
It's going to be a shit series. No, but Adi, coming to your earlier thing that you said, right? I remember this friend of mine in school, he would be sitting in the front bench and always, like a first ranker or second ranker and all that. Before every exam, you would have this completely blank look on his face. Nothing, yeah. Yesterday I slept off, yeah. I didn't study only, yeah. Only these 2 chapters I read, yeah, and all he will tell. That is exactly how Australia is. Guys are just chilling, going on podcasts, going to Coldplay concerts, putting out content and all that. Come November 22nd, with that red Kookaburra in their hand, it will just talk. They will come to bat. They will score mountains of runs. And then we'll be sitting like fools wondering, oh, they didn't only prepare. We put dark whale tactics and dark web tactics to practice and all that. And also our lot of our approach, especially, the way people have been putting out content from our side as well, vibes or sound bites, it gives me a very Ashes feel, wherein, every year England comes and with all this big dick energy and it's like, oh, we will do this, we will do that, and Stuart Broad will mouth off only to then end up going 5-0 and then say 2020 never happened. You see, it was COVID, so we don't count that Ashes anymore. So unless we can come up and say that 2024 we don't count the BGT, we only count the BGTs that happened in the Shaz era, we don't count the BGTs in the GG era, something like nonsense we'll have to count, because the way we are putting out sound bites gives me a very bad feeling. Ricky Ponting is hyping up Virat Kohli. You have all these other players who are hyping up Indian players. Indian media also is hyping up Indian players. The Australian players are slipping nicely under the radar, going on podcasts and making jokes and all of that.
So put your money where your mouth is, Max. What's the scoreline as of now?
3-1 Australia.
VaMu?
That one also, when Ashna gets a game, if Ashna gets games, it will be 1. Otherwise, it will be 4-0.
VaMu?
I'm going like either 3-2 or 4-1 India.
Wow.
Yeah.
So okay, let's play that back. So does 3-2 get us to WTC final or permutations on other teams for 3-2?
You need 4. You need 4 to
make it for sure.
Be clear.
No, it's not necessary. Like I think you need 4. You need 4 so that you are not dependent on other results. Honestly, my sense is 3-2 should also do it for India. We'll get some luck in one of those other test matches, basically. So
3-2 puts you in RCB maths territory, basically. You have to now expect Sri Lanka to win an away test against South Africa. You have to expect England to not get whitewashed by New Zealand. You have to expect that Pakistan somehow draws a game. And you would expect somehow Sri Lanka draws one game against all that RCB math you have to do.
Sri Lanka doing well is not like inconceivable. Adi, what's your take on the series? Like,
Sri Lanka will travel to South Africa against Rabada and all, and they will win and come. Kamindu Mendes, okay, Kamindu Mendes is right
Hey,
now walking on water. I get it.
Macha, they
He-
have already done that. Like
Kusal Pereira series, but they got belted in
yeah,
2020.
they,
but but this time South Africa has the best chance of all, right? If you look at it from anyone's perspective, India has to win 4 games against
In Australia.
Australia or 3 games against Australia. Yeah, South Africa is going to have 2 teams who are not in the top 5, who are visiting them in Cape Town and Johannesburg and PE and all that. Unless South Africa does some serious, unless Gautam Gambhir becomes a South African coach, South Africa is clearly going to the finals.
Macha, New Zealand came to India 1-3-0. Like Sri Lanka winning one test in South Africa, or Pakistan with that pace attack winning one test in South Africa against a very average South African batting side. I don't think it's like totally like inconceivable. Arun. Adi, what's your take on the
I think
series?
I'm going 4-0 in favor of Australia, with the draw being in Sydney just because of the weather. It's rained in, I think, 6 out of the last 8 test matches in Sydney in January. It's rained. And I think that will be the one which will be a draw just because of rain. But I'm going with 4-0. Just that, yeah, I mean, I just feel, even though VaMu's point is spot on, that the batters on both sides are quite light on prep and form coming into it, I just feel home conditions and just the overall hunger that these guys have to win a Border-Gavaskar after more than 9 years. So they've kind of made this like a stated goal for the team and for Cricket Australia as a whole, which is why you can see right from the scheduling where they've had first 3 tests in their fortresses, and then Melbourne and Sydney, they can't move it much. So they've kind of decided that they will never again have a test in Gabba outside of the months of November and December after what happened against India the last time and also against West Indies. And they've said, let's always have Perth let's always have Adelaide as a day-night test, given that we've never lost a day-night test there. So they've kind of, within their power, what they can do to ensure that they definitely come 3-0 before Melbourne, they've done. And then I think they reckon the bowlers have it in them to do it. So yeah, that's my sense that yeah, it's going to be 4-0 just because of those factors. I think venues, the choice of it, I think they've been very smart about it. That's probably going to cause us some concern. Also, Bumrah's availability across 5 tests. I know between the first and the second test there's a good 10-day gap, but does he have it in him to bowl in all 5 tests? Noting that even in the England series, they chose to rest him for the third test, or the fourth test, sorry. The others are untested here. So, yeah, I think the bowling of ours also doesn't probably match up fully against them if you take out Bumrah from the equation. And he can only bowl at one end and he can only bowl so much.
Like how last year, right? The WTC was not on their minds. Winning the Ashes was the main thing for Australia. Traveling to England and beating England for the Ashes was their main focus. The WTC was just something that happened. So they got Scott Boland to play in the WTC final. But same way. But now I think because they've lost 2, they've traveled and they lost. So the PGT has been away for a.
And Nathan Lyon specifically said that there are many guys in the team who never experienced what it is to win a BGT, right? Which is a pretty telling comment. Like particularly when you look at Cummins,
Exactly.
who made his comeback after his
Yeah.
injury in 2018 and stuff, he's never experienced it, right? Like Cummins has won pretty much everything he has touched. For him not to win or retain a BGT is like a very glaring omission from his very illustrious CV.
BGT and IPL are the 2 trophies Cummins doesn't have in his cupboard. But more importantly, what is with Australian newspapers and their fetish for Virat Kohli? Please.
It's just one of those things which just sells, right? Because Virat is someone whom they reckon is the closest to being an Australian type cricketer who's not Australian. Right from the 11-12 series where he flipped the bird to the 2014-15 series where he had a fantastic series stepping in after Dhoni's mid series captaincy exit, plus also almost chasing down that target in Adelaide, and then what he did in 2018-19. So just this ongoing love affair with him. Plus also he's like very marketable, right? Like the story writes itself. Married a Bollywood actress, has more Instagram followers than LeBron James, etc. So it just makes it easy to. Plus what he did for Steve Smith in the 2019 World Cup, the magnanimity of him, all of that. So it's just they just found a guy who's very marketable, who's good looking, popular, reasonably good batter, who gives as good as he takes. So they've never had anybody like that who's so brash and open. So they kind of think that, yeah, okay, fine, he's a guy we can market. Because all the promo coverage that I see on Fox has Cummins and it has Kohli. It's like Rohit is not even mentioned anywhere, or any of the other members of the squad. Only today, someone was sending me a photo from the main train station in Perth Central series with Cummins on one side and finally Rohit on the other side to acknowledge that he's the captain. But apart from that, wall to wall, it's just that. Like, I'm sure.
But he's not going to be there at Perth.
Exactly, right? So, yeah, so that's why they've said Kohli is going to be that all five test series. Let's go with the guy who's safe. Before any big series, the main tabloids here will come up with a 7 or 8 page program guide for the summer, right? You can lift it out and they will have a poster you can hang on your wall. And they have not gone for any Aussie cricketer. They've gone with Virat Kohli. You would expect that, fine, okay. I mean, you're obviously catering to a local audience, so you'll have Virat on one side and maybe you'll have a Steve Smith. But no, they just had one full page with Virat and all his statistics and all of that were basically to pin on your wall.
So Virat Kohli is headlining the Australian Summer of Cricket.
Kind of. See, again, to VaMu's point, they are playing it very smartly, right? You guys take all the spotlight in the world. Our guys will quietly go under the radar, do podcasts, talk shit everywhere, and then quietly come on 22nd and then, yeah, do what we have to do on the field.
So they are playing the underdog card, right? They're playing the underdog card very, very well. And unfortunately, our guys are taking the bait also.
Gigi is the one who kind of made those stupid comments before he left about ponting and all of that, right? The players themselves have not said anything, in all fairness, right? They have not said anything so far. I'm not sure if they took the captain's call to have that net session with all those black whales surrounding. I don't think they took the call. So to be fair, you can't really blame the players for doing anything. They've generally kept to themselves. And I think they've learned from the previous tours that best not engage with the media, because anything you say, they will try and use it to their advantage and make you look like the bad guys.
I think from a player perspective, Ash Anna has tried to give some sound bites about how he had like Steve Smith like in control, how to take away Steve Smith's hands, etc. and stuff like that. But yeah, you're right. I think the players have been like heads down and more focused on the preparation. I think the one other thing that probably the focus on Kohli, I think a big part of it for me has also got to do with Rohit's uncertainty, right? I mean, I think Rohit, whether he'll be there, not there, etc. I think that's also played a part. Of course, you're right. I mean, Kohli has a stature of his own. I'm also curious to see how the absence of ODIs and T20 internationals on the side is going to play out this time around, because I mean, Kohli has always had a head start, like in the BGT, like scoring runs in the ODIs, T20s, etc.
And I think that's what happened the last time around when they started the tour. I think last time was only a 4-test series. So they started with 3 ODIs, which they lost 1-2, but won the 3 T20s 2-1 leading into the test series. Right, Hardik Pandya had that memorable game in, I think, Sydney, I think. And then they got into the test series. So I think, yeah, whether momentum getting into the series makes a difference, time will tell, noting that he had a pretty poor series against New Zealand.
We're approaching the 1 hour mark, and there is cricket that's happening around the world as well. Sri Lanka and New Zealand have been playing an ODI series. That is more of a second string New Zealand team, because you have Tim Robinson, Mark Chapman, Henry Nichols, and Mitch Hay, and all these guys. There's a bowler called Jacob Duffy, reminded me of Darryl Duffy from back in the day. So just like how you can make random South African player names by saying Tom Kruger and all that things, you can make random New Zealand names also by putting Tuffy, Cuffy, Duffy, all those looks like. Asalanka is leading the game, but Avishka and Kusal Mendes both scored hundreds in the first ODI. But it got rained and there was DLS and some nonsense and all happened. It was New Zealand was nowhere. And then England is here in this continent, playing golf and also cricket in between when they find time. So the ODI series they lost because you had Liam Livingstone captaining it and bunch of That also seemed like a B team. They had bunch of new guys who showed up there, Jacob Bethel and all of that. But then for the T20s, Josh Butler showed up, and along with some of the other guys like Sam Curran and a Will Jacks and a Phil Salt.
So which one was the one where you had the Alzarri Joseph controversy?
That was in the ODI. Roman Powell is the captain. Alzarri Joseph was bowling. This was, and I think he had bowled like 3-4 overs at this point, and he didn't like some field placing, so he had a heated argument with Roman Powell and just walked out of the game because he didn't give him the field placing he wanted, and they got runs to fine leg or something like that. And everyone was like completely in shock as to, first people thought maybe he pulled a hamstring and that's why he's walking away or something, but he was walking away in anger. And later, the commentator said that apparently he's walked away because of this altercation with the captain. And then later, the coach was angry with him and they suspended him for a game, and all that nonsense has happened there. So,
Yeah, the best part about that is they played with 10 men like for an over. I don't know what stopped them from getting a substitute fielder on.
because they themselves
And that-
weren't sure. Like, did he come out of the ground to drink water or what? Only when he said, "I'm not going back," they're like, "Okay, we need to send a substitute now." Yes, or generally a bowler, after an over, will just walk out and take a sip of water from the guy who's standing outside the boundary or something. This guy just did come back to the field, so they're like, "Okay, we have to send a guy as a substitute and all that." And how do you send a substitute? Because for what reason? If a player is angry, I don't know if it's in the rule books also that player is angry and you can send a substitute. Like, if they are incapacitated or something, you send a sub. It's actually interesting to watch the number of English fans in the stadiums, because it's all, this is proper holiday season, right? So you have a lot of fans traveling for sights and sounds of the West Indies, and then showing up casually on an evening for a game. So some of the stadiums, I think it was at Barbados, there's this giant hot tub kind of a thing, and there's people sitting in the hot tub with beers around them and having a pretty chill time. And even for the English team, even English players, I think they're here to play golf. They are here for a golf outing, and between that, they are ending up playing a few games here and there.
The English players are there to like jack up their money they earn during the IPL auctions, basically. That's what like the objective of this full T20 series is very strategically timed.
Interesting stat. So Pat Cummins didn't play the third game and chose to go and watch a Coldplay concert instead. On the other side of the world, Phil Salt was invited to Rihanna's home for a party, and he didn't go to the party and instead scored a century because he stayed in his hotel and had a good night's sleep. So he showed up next morning and scored a century. But I don't know if that's the smartest thing to do, because who's going to remember a century against West Indies in some nondescript game? The better Christmas table story is to tell I was at Rihanna's house. And
I'll
not,
tell you who will remember this century. It will be all the IPL franchisees, basically. So like he'll be laughing his way to the bank after the IPL auction. I think talking about the New Zealand England series, I think like Tim Southee has finally announced his test retirement. I think with Anderson's retirement, I believe Saudi may have been the bowler who or has been playing for the longest period of time. I believe he debuted in 2008 or 9. So
yeah,
a
wasn't
lot
there
of
a
credit
stat
to him.
that he's like the last player to bowl to Sachin? He's the last currently operating player who's bowled to Sachin. I mean, after Anderson, and when Anderson retired, he was the only one left who's.
Interesting.
But again, this is the internet, so no one checks stats. It's just nice to hear. And if you tell the lie, long enough, then it becomes
On a
fact.
lighter note, we were speaking about the English
Interesting.
fans in the Caribbean. So there's this Australian bowler called Arthur Maley, who was a spinner in the 30s and 40s, who wrote this famous book called 10 for 66 and all that. He was also a prolific cartoonist. So in the 50s, he was doing a tour of the UK along with the Ashes, right, just to cover the game for some publication. And he had an exhibition of his artwork shown. And the Queen decided to come and see his paintings and said, Mr. Maley, your paintings are very nice, but this one where you're showing the sun rising doesn't quite seem right. He said, Your Majesty, my apologies, but in this country, I have to remember the sun from memory. So, and so yeah, I thought I'll bring up that old nugget, but yeah.
Unfortunately, Abhishek Chopra is not here to fact check you and say if this Arthur Meli was really a bowler, cricketer,
He
or
can leave his
whatever.
comments on
So
YouTube
you can say
as
any
an
name at this
anon.
point. You can say Charlie Grimmett, Stan McCabe. I'll still believe it. No, these are all generic, old-time English surnames. So yeah, any name, any Meli you'll say, I'll believe. Any McCabe, I'll believe. Any Grimmett, I'll believe. So it's okay. Okay. On that note, we've covered everything that's happened this week in the world of cricket. We've talked a lot about the upcoming BGT. By the next episode, you're listening to this. The first test might also be done. So yeah, right now we can make bold predictions. But even other than Varun Murli, both of us have tempered our expectations severely. We're looking forward to a severe drubbing, losing 3 tests, even 4. Varun has the exact opposite on us. So time will tell. Until then, this is Max along with Varun Murli and Adi. Again, reminding you on this multi-continental pod. So please keep listening and give us a shout out on YouTube, Spotify, and wherever you get your content from. Thank you. Say bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.